justice.
Luckiest one, I guess. Hit that corner, gave a little chase, boom, boom, boom.
Mr. Davis, you have the right to have the jury sentence you if they come back on a first-degree murder verdict, and you have decided to waive that right. Is that correct?
For 27 years, somebody got away with it. That's not a theory. That's not speculation. That's a fact. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department stood up in front of cameras and admitted themselves.
27 years. For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis, a.k.a. Keffe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
And the man they finally arrested? He spent years hiding in plain sight, laughing about it on camera, writing about it in a book he sold for money.
Yep, that's him. You're going to see a lot of this guy for the next few weeks of this trial. That is Keffe D in the back of a patrol car minutes after his arrest. Calm, seemingly unbothered, seemingly confident, told the officer he wasn't worried about anything.
You already know how this goes. The system waits. It always waits. Until the story gets too big to bury. Here's the thing, though. This isn't really about Tupac Shakur. Not entirely. It's about what happens when the people who are supposed to protect us decide a case is too complicated, too political, too dangerous to actually finish. 27 years. Think about that number. A generation of kids grew up, graduated, had kids of their own. And the man accused of orchestrating the murder of one of the most famous entertainers in American history walked free the entire time. Not hiding in some cabin in the woods. Giving interviews, writing memoirs. Living his life while a family waited for answers nobody in power seemed all that interested in giving them. And look, we all knew something was off about how this case was handled. You didn't need a badge or a law degree to...
That relationship would have its biggest shakeup yet.
On the night of September 7th of 1996, Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same.
September 7th, 1996. Tupac Shakur is in Vegas for the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. Later that night, he's shot multiple times riding in a car with Suge Knight down the strip. He dies 6 days later. No arrests, no convictions. For decades, just a name that circulated in hip-hop circles, in true crime forums, in whispered interviews. Dwayne Keffe D. Davis. Here's where it gets interesting. Davis wasn't some mystery man law enforcement had to hunt down using secret files and classified leads. He told people himself, repeatedly, in a 2019 memoir called Compton Street Legend, in interviews you can still find online right now. He described being in the car. He described obtaining a firearm. He described handing that gun to the passengers in the back seat before they pulled up next to Tupac and Suge Knight's BMW on Flamingo Road.
I got in the car with the homies, yeah, and we ran into them. We went up to the light on Sunset and Flamingo, and dude was acting like he was in a parade or something. And that BMW hanging out the window, hey, this Tupac, he's Tupac. And then was hollering for him. And we let that go down. It came up on the side of him. Looked like he was reaching, yeah, it looked like he was ready to bust. We was the first ones.
Yeah.
Luckiest one, I guess. Hit that corner, gave a little chase, boom, boom, boom.
He said all of it, out loud, on the record, and nothing happened for years. Now here's the part nobody talks about enough. Under Nevada law, and this matters, so stay with me here, you don't have to pull the trigger to be charged with the crime. If you help plan it, if you supply the weapon, if you're the one calling the shots, you can be charged just the same as the person who fired the gun. That's the theory prosecutors are building their case on. Not that Davis shot Tupac Shakur, Nobody's
and
claiming
immediately
that.
began shooting. Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out.
So the police may have had a theory here, but it was Keffe D himself who allegedly provided the evidence that they needed. Interviews, his own book, his own words.
They're arguing he was the shot caller, the one who put the plan in motion after Tupac and Suge Knight were caught on hotel security footage beating down Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson, just hours earlier that same night.
Regardless of who wrote every portion. Davis also allegedly said that he didn't pull the trigger. In fact, he has pointed the finger at his own nephew, Orlando Anderson. Remember that name? It's going to come up a lot during this trial, Orlando Anderson. And Orlando Anderson died in 1998. Now,
Orlando Anderson. Remember that name, because he's the man Davis is pointed to as the actual shooter. And Orlando Anderson can't defend himself, explain himself, or testify to anything. He died in 1998. Convenient, isn't it? The most important loose end this case has just happens to not be around to speak for himself. I need to be honest with you for a second. I've covered a lot of cold cases, a lot of cover-ups, a lot of stories where the truth got buried under money and connections and people who thought they were untouchable. But something about this one sits differently with me. Maybe it's the 27 years.
Suge Knight, the only other apparent living witness to this shooting, allegedly told police Keffe D's name that same night. But Knight has made it clear he does not want to testify. He apparently told ABC News last week that getting on the witness stand is, quote, worse than taking a gun and shooting that man in the head. He said his loyalty to Tupac can never be compromised and that he is not going to be responsible for sending another man to prison for the rest of his life. Knight, by the way.
Maybe it's watching a man sit in the back of a squad car, calm, almost bored, telling an officer he's not worried about anything, because for decades, he had no reason to be. Let's get back to it, though, because this story doesn't slow down. Davis was eventually arrested in 2023, released on a $750,000 bond that prosecutors say came from a music industry manager, money that got dragged into a courtroom fight over whether it was even legitimate. Denied, sent back to jail. And then the jail calls started surfacing.
Motion is denied.
And in April of 2025, while awaiting trial for murder, Keffe D was found guilty of battery by a prisoner.
Have the jurors reached a verdict?
Yes, sir.
Do we have the verdict? Thank you. Clerk will now read the verdict out loud.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada. The State of Nevada Plaintiff versus Dwayne Keith Davis Defendant. Case number C25389079-2, Department 4. Verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Dwayne Davis, as follows. Count 1, battery by prisoner. Guilty of battery by prisoner. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Dwayne Davis, as follows. Count 2, challenge to fight. Guilty of challenge to fight. Dated this 9th day, April 2025, signed by Rodney Medina, foreperson. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict as read? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes.
Recordings of Davis talking about episodes, about getting content out before trial, about business as usual while facing a murder charge. His defense? They're arguing the book, the interviews, all of it was exaggerated, a performance, something he said to sell copies and stay relevant, not a real confession. They even tried subpoenaing Sean Diddy Combs, not to confirm anything, but to argue that Davis is simply a man who tells stories for attention. His lawyers tried to get evidence thrown out entirely. The judge said no.
Not buying.
When I look at the fact that this is a homicide investigation, there is the anticipated presence of the suspect with a prior violent felony and firearm history, as well as a steel door being present, which is not something common that officers necessarily encourage. the officer and public safety concerns do exist. The defendant's omission arguments do not establish a showing of intentional or reckless misconduct required under Franks versus Delaware. They also don't show that the inclusion of the omitted facts would have defeated the good cause finding. The warrant was executed pursuant to judicial authorization. There's no showing of that.
Every motion, every attempt to make this go away quietly has failed so far. And in a move that should stop you in your tracks, Davis just told the judge he wants her, not a jury of everyday Americans, deciding his sentence if he's convicted. Not the people, her. Ask yourself why a man who spent years talking would suddenly want fewer people listening when it actually counts. The trial is happening right now. Jury selection wrapped. Nearly 30 years after Tupac Shakur died on that stretch of the Las Vegas Strip, the first criminal trial connected to his murder is finally underway. Davis has pleaded not guilty. He hasn't been convicted of anything. That matters, and it should matter to you too, because the system is supposed to work both ways, for the accused and for the family still waiting. But if it took this long for the words of the accused man himself to become the evidence that finally forced a courtroom to open, you have to ask what else has been sitting quietly, waiting for someone with a big enough mouth to accidentally tell on themselves. So here's my question for you. If this case had never come with a confession attached, wrapped in a book deal and a few too many interviews, do you think it ever sees a courtroom at all? Or does this stay another name on a very long list of cases America simply decided to stop looking at? Tell me what you think in the comments.